I noticed that Three Spirit, our affiliate, the non-alcoholic yummy elixirs,
Yummy.
they have a rewards program. So if you're going to buy anything from them, sign up for that rewards program.
I just want to say emphasis on yummy because they have really good mixed drink options for those of you who like to partake but don't necessarily want to do alcohol for whatever reason. They have really good recipes on their site, so you don't have to sit at home and think, what the hell do I mix this with? They give you the options. So we've done it one time. I know we all three got together, and then I think the two Amy's have kind of played around with them on their own. They're really good. So if you want to partake with some mixed drinks, mocktails, definitely look into them. They're so good.
And you can just go to their website and then use the promo code The Activity Continues, and that will get you 15% off of your first order. And it does us a little solid too. They throw us a little commission every time someone uses our code. So,
and you might think that they're kind of expensive, but they're made to be like mixers, so they last a really, really long time.
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna chug that whole bottle.
No, it's not like a beer. You know,
and the bottles are so cool too.
I do like the bottles.
I rinsed them out and I'm saving them. I've got one over here. Like I'm gonna put lights in it.
Cool.
Those little tinkly lights. So
fairy lights,
anyway,
as they're
it's
called.
super cool. So
we had so much fun that night. And
if you're looking to cut down on alcohol but still want the buzz, check them out. The link is us.threespiritdrinks.com and use the promo code The Activity Continues for 15% off your entire order. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Activity Continues podcast. This week, we are talking to Traci, who is a client from the Dead Vows episode called Killer Smile. That is season 15, episode 5. Please note that this episode is only part of the full conversation. Part 2 will be released next week. I am recording this on July 5th, 2023, and it has come to light just today that the episode that is on tomorrow evening is the last episode of season 15. We thought we would have another 7 episodes to cover, but it looks like that is not the case. So we will cover episode 6 soon. And we had already planned to do a series of interview episodes. We weren't expecting to do it until fall, so it looks like we'll have to pivot.
Here we go, pivot! Pivot! Pivot!
We want to talk to psychics, shaman, demonologists, Reiki masters, and of course, former clients of the Dead Vows. If you are any of the above, but especially a former client of the show, and you would like to come on to our show to discuss your experiences, please reach out to us at any of our socials or our email at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com. Please enjoy our conversation with Traci. All right, she's coming in.
Hello.
Hi, Traci.
Hi, Traci.
Hey.
So welcome.
Yes,
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to talk to you. We've been anticipating this and looking forward to it for quite some time. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So the things that I want to make sure we cover, first, we want to hear anything that you're willing to share, and please don't feel like you have to share anything that you're not ready to share. It's all up to you. Anything that you would like to share about the experiences you had before you reached out to the Dead Vows and since. And then I guess that's the most important. And then if you're willing to go into any behind the scenes stuff, like what was Steve like, what was Amy like, blah, 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 like any of that kind of stuff would be super interesting to us too. So that's kind of what we're looking for. If you have other ideas, other things you want to talk about, that's absolutely cool too. That's kind of what we're looking for. So
you're driving the bus.
Okay.
We're just passengers.
Oh gosh.
We'll try not to do road bumps.
I should say I'm Amy, the
Hi,
producer.
Amy.
Hi. And then you're looking at the other Amy, AP,
Hey.
and Megan.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
And we're all at my house.
Yep.
we all had brunch and had mimosas. We only just had one mimosa so far.
Nice.
Delicious.
It's one if you never let it empty and you just keep adding to it. It's still just one.
It's one.
Just one. Yep.
Just one.
Yep. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I am okay. I'm good.
Okay.
Catherine is at work. She's working at a hospital over the summer.
Okay.
Oh.
And David and I went to church this morning, and I'm good.
Good.
So.
Good. All right.
So I will get into the activity we had before we contacted the show, and it's relevant to our episode.
Okay.
Sure.
We rented a house for 9 years about 3 miles away from here.
Oh.
And within the month of us moving in, Catherine became sick. And when I say sick, she started with, I think I'm getting a rash on my legs. And that turned into, within days, she was covered. People were like recoiling from her. She had biopsies, blood work. They couldn't figure out what it was. They were going to admit her to the Medical University of South Carolina Children's Hospital. Like, it was bad.
Shoot.
And so they finally said, oh, well, we don't know what it is. We've never seen blood work like this before. So that was within a month of moving in.
Which is really what you want to hear regarding your child.
Right.
When did you move into the house, Traci?
We purchased this home in 2009, at the end of 2019.
Okay.
So I guess 2010 is when we moved in. Yeah. So we get her settled, and she has a horrific summer. And then she starts seeing things. Now, Catherine's always seen things. Even before she knew what they were, she came down the stairs one day, and she was about 4, and she said, Grandma came and sat in my bed last night. And I said, she did. Did she say anything? And she said, no, she just smiled. Well, she was a year old when my mom passed, so she has no memory of her.
Yeah. And no way she would have known who she was.
Right. And we didn't give her any extra special attention because of it. It was just like, okay, this is the thing that happens, you know.
Because you don't want to freak her out.
Right. You can tell me, and, you know, we'll talk about it, and then we'll be done, basically. So, but when we moved into this house, she started seeing, like, it was full on things. And then it started with, we had this figure, and it was, imagine a full black mass, and it would lean over you right by your head, and you would pretend that you were dead. You're like, if I can just pretend I'm dead,
Right.
then I will disappear somehow. Like, really, that's going to happen. And so
You tell yourself anything to get out of
Yeah, exactly.
Did it have like an energy, like a male or female energy, or was it just kind of?
it had a male energy, and it was negative.
Yep.
Shoot. Oh my goodness.
It was scary negative.
Yeah.
And what Catherine and I figured out that at times we would have it come in throughout the night, and what it was doing that night was going back and forth between her room and the room I was in. So it was just going back and forth.
I wonder why.
I got
Like, what was its
pushed
goal?
I'm sorry?
I just said why. Like, what was the goal? Just to, like, monitor you, or?
I don't know, but it was like, pretend you're dead, scary. That's it's the only way I know how to describe it. And so I lost where I was. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to derail you.
Oh, no, I know where I got. Okay, so it just escalated. I had to, shortly after we moved in, I had to have a surgery. Then I got my first and only ever seeing eye dog because I'm legally blind. I have no central vision, only peripheral. Mm-hmm. So I know you're on the screen, but I can't see your face. Mm-hmm. I have no idea what you look like. I haven't driven a car in 18 years, but I have so many years of seeing that I have this, like, you know, this encyclopedia of filling in where things are missing.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to tell most of the time, unless I'm trying to read something.
Oh, I can imagine that would be hard.
Then that goes out the window. So I'm at home all the time. This activity is getting worse. I've got pushed. I had surgery. I got my seeing eye dog. His name was Guinness. Oh. He was actually named after my mom, who had obviously already passed, and her last name was McGinnis. She was Irish. So we just shortened it to Guinness because his name was Dave, and I couldn't have David and Dave.
Right.
So
Dave, get over here.
He would get so confused. He's like, I don't know that command. But, you know, pick up the laundry. So we had to change his name. So that's what we decided on. And shortly after I got him, I had to have another surgery, a rotator cuff repair. So then I heal from that 9 months later. And I'm fully kind of back to what I'm going to get to. And I'm walking my normal route, and all I hear is a dog running towards us. And he gets attacked, and so thankfully it wasn't bad, but that I had to have both my biceps reattached because they were torn up because I was holding Guinness in his harness and trying to pull him one way and pull this dog the other way.
Oh my gosh.
So then activity in the house continues to get, and that's when David starts getting attacked. Is when we lived in this house. That's when I noticed he was fighting something in his sleep. And so, let's see. So then we continue to live in the house. The activity continues to escalate. Like, it just is. But I don't have mood swings at that house. I'm fine at that house. I don't have those mood changes. It's just a lot of physical. It's a lot of scratches. I would lay in bed, and as God is my witness, I've had my bed shake. It was like someone was standing at the end of my queen size mattress and just holding each corner, shaking it back and forth. We had someone, it was like they'd go under the bed and kick it up.
No.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Like so that house was really physical as far as the activity was concerned. It also was literally on the Ashley River.
Okay.
Which is in Charleston was a huge Native American area, and with that river being so close to everything, and plus the history of the South, and where we're located, it doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of, I mean, we would hear footsteps on the stairwell. It would, but then good things happen. Like, it's kind of good. My neighbor, who was a dear friend of mine, her cat died, and was going to pass, and she couldn't hold it while it went to sleep. So she asked me to hold it. So I said, okay. So that night we heard the cat go up our stairs because we had wood floors in the house. Yeah. It was like the cat went up the stairs, and then Catherine was in bed, and she's like, oh yeah, he jumped on the bed and curled up at the foot of my bed. So it wasn't all horrible.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So we just become accustomed to living in complete and total fear. And then one day I came downstairs and I said, Guinness doesn't look right.
Oh no.
He seems unhappy. But when I saw him and got to know him, I kind of always knew that he wasn't going to live a long life. I don't know how, but I just did. So I said, Guinness doesn't look right. So he looks unhappy. So within 24 hours that next morning, we were rushing him to the vet.
Oh, no.
And they took x-rays and did some tests and sent us to a cardiologist.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And we immediately went over to the cardiologist's office, and they drained a bunch of blood and fluid and said he actually has a tumor on his heart where his aorta meets his heart. And there's nothing we can do about it. And I felt the entire time that he was taking a lot of energy for us. Like, I just felt like he was protecting us in that way.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like, he's absorbing the bad energy so it doesn't go to you?
Right.
Oh, baby.
What a good boy.
And to the point where the guide school, where there's only, several CNI dog schools in the U.S.,
Correct.
The one I got Guinness from was in Florida. And when I sent them, the paperwork from the cardiologist and all of the information, they said he's the first dog that has ever died of cancer in their program.
Wow.
So that one shook me.
Yeah.
To the point where I'll never get another CNI dog.
Really?
Because I never want to put another dog through that again. So shortly after that, we decide we're going to move and we're going to buy a house. And I start looking at this house, and I'm just drawn to it. And I sit on it for like 3 weeks. And we had an appointment to see several houses one day, and this is the first house we came to. And we walked through it, all three of us, and we said we'll take it.
It is really cute. I don't blame you. It is. I mean, it's so, and it's just so.
It's a cute house.
Like, you've really made it. You can tell, like, you in the show, you could really see your personal touches and how you've made it, a home. It just looked really welcoming.
Could I interject really quickly, Traci, when you were talking about Guinness passing? I recently lost mine due to cancer. Not a CNI dog, but just my dog. But I can tell you that a lot of places will not confirm health-related issues of their dogs passing, so that there's not a negative connotation so them telling you that piece may have been more to protect them than to say, we've never had a dog that's passed from cancer before. I've worked with the kennel that I got my dog from. You can't guarantee against cancer in dogs like that. So I was making faces at that point because I feel like you were told something that is something they can't control, and they can't really tell you the truth on that one. And so I just, especially when you said you didn't want to put another dog through that, but if it's something that's always helped you and it's something that you wanted again, I didn't feel right not saying something. So
yeah, we don't want you to feel guilty like you did something to that dog because you brought it into that house.
Yep.
No, and I appreciate you letting me know that. They made it sound like, he's the only one that's ever. They couldn't believe it.
No.
And he was young. He was only 7.
And I mean, statistically speaking, I feel like that might not be. I mean, how do you have how many dogs and none of them had can't, like, that statistically doesn't make sense.
They can do some genetic testing, and they can do some things before they breed, mom and dad. So I worked with a breeder, responsibly bred. But you can't guarantee against things that are not genetic related. Even if they are completely hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, quote, free in mom and dad, it can still happen in a puppy. So there's a lot of things, and that's, to me, that feels like a very common thing that some breeders will say, and some places like that will say, because they don't want it coming back to them that they gave out a dog They use the dog in training and all of this stuff. They put all the work into it. Briggs, my dog, actually sired a litter, and unfortunately the mother had some reactivity. And so the entire litter, except for one, failed their trainings for, they weren't just CNI dogs, but other service dogs.
Oh, nice.
Yep. But unfortunately, service wasn't for them. They went into other things because they were having some of those reactions. But, they're not going to tell people about that sort of thing.
I never would have thought that. So thank you.
Well, no, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. I'm like shaking because I was so sad that you were told that kind of stuff.
And I remove so much stuff. Like there's nothing on my mantle. There's nothing on the walls. I removed everything. So thank you for the sweet comment about our house looking cute, but literally everything was gone.
Yeah.
So
it looks even cuter is what you're saying.
But now that I think about it, shortly after I got Guinness, he got sick, and we didn't know what was wrong with him, and he ended up being in the animal hospital. And we were at a point where we were going to actually take him to Atlanta because we didn't think he was going to make it through the night. And $5,000 later,
Of course.
they still have no idea what made him sick.
Wow.
None whatsoever. So that was interesting. But yes, and thank you for telling me about the cancer, and it does make me feel better.
And was he a golden or a lab?
He was a lab. He was a black lab.
Same was Briggs.
So Amy's dogs are?
Yep, my dogs are all black labs, but labs, one of their highest things that they die from is cancer.
Well, not according to this guide school.
My sister works in a veterinary clinic and helped me with mine, and hers also was a black lab. Had some form of cancer likely. So you're not alone.
So to get back to the story, so I don't take up too much of your time, moved into we sat on this house. We came and saw it, and we said we don't want to see any other house. This is it. I don't know what it is, but this is it. Like, this is supposed to be our home, and we are really excited. We move in, and we start noticing the first thing that started happening was smoke detectors. And please know that the one that they showed on this show is like the old hardwired in one we just haven't removed yet.
Yeah.
We have those too.
We do have updated. We just had to take them down because they would just go off for no reason. And one time, with one, I ended up just having to take a hammer to it. Then the actual hardwired system, there was a keypad in the kitchen and a keypad in the bedroom. That would go off randomly for no reason. And I would just start typing numbers in until it stopped, pressing buttons. And then one time I was home by myself and it would not stop. So I pulled it off the wall and I just started cutting wires.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
So that we had stuff like that start to happen, but then we started renovating. We put in new windows. We put in new floors. We painted. We did a lot of stuff, and we were really motivated. And then we hit a brick wall, and it was like we don't want to do anything else. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I just don't care. David was still fighting something in his sleep. I was having my mood swings, which the show made it. I don't really feel like they explained my part well, because I read a comment where a girl wrote, "I looked nuts." And I thought, well, actually watched the episode and I didn't think I was nuts.
You did not look nuts. Not
my eyes rolled so far back in my head when you just said that.
No, I didn't get that vibe from you at all. I got that you were
I didn't either.
Tired of fighting, but not nuts.
What was on the reveal that the show had to cut out due to time was, number one, that I'm an empath, which I know that it doesn't surprise me.
We are too.
But because I've gone through menopause due to a surgery I had to have at the old house, the surgery put me into menopause early. Okay. So when I walked in the room and Amy and Steve were sitting at the table, Amy looked at me and she gasped. And I sat down and she said, "How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" And I said, "I'm 45. And she wrote it down in her book. And my guess is she thought I was much older. Yep. And she said, you're an empath and because of your hormones, every single wall you've ever built up is gone. It's like you are completely raw."
Interesting.
So everything that is outside, everything that's inside that I'm feeling is like, it's not mine. And I didn't, I didn't know that because it just seemed like it was all at once when we moved into this house. I mean, I went to my neighbors and they're replacing their floor and they were talking. I bent down and I touched the old flooring, and this has never happened to me before, never happened to me since. And I have no idea what it was. I touched the flooring and I immediately stood up. And by the time I stood up, I had tears in my eyes. And I put my hand over my mouth. I'm like, "Oh, I have to go." And I ran out of their home crying. Now I'm 45 and they're in their 30s. This is not a normal response and situation, but they have activity at their house. So it was not a shock or surprise.
I wonder what the previous owners of their house went through.
I do know they had a little boy died of cancer in that house.
Oh no.
I don't know any other history about the house. And it's funny. I said to my real estate agent, as long as this house isn't haunted, it's like no.
That's funny because when I moved into my old house, I asked the realtor if it was haunted, and she laughed and she's like, "No," and I was like, "Oh," because I kind of wanted a haunted house. And then later she was like, "Okay, well, I didn't know why you were asking, but yeah, the previous owners have seen."
There's actually laws and different things about, but that's not really something in most states that has to be disclosed because it technically can't be proven in a court system. And I will just mention quickly, and that's why we drink. Em recently covered a few episodes ago this actual thing about haunted houses, and you can't having this preconceived notion about a house. You can't put that kind of stuff out there. Even some of them can have if a murder or other crimes have happened in those houses.
Well, I did know that the woman who previously owned the home was older and she passed from natural causes in the home, which I'm fine with. I'm all about hospice. My mom passed with hospice and I was there. Her best friend 13 years later passed of hospice and I was there. I'm fine with that. So that didn't bother me. I do know she broke her leg, her femur, in the area where that campfire.
Really?
Grew. Yes, because my neighbor came home and found her, and she had been laying there for hours.
I'm guessing she must have slipped
because at this
something.
point she lived alone. Yeah. She was painting a birdhouse, and she fell off the ladder somehow. So. So the smoke detectors, and then we hit a brick wall, and we also would hear noises coming from the attic, and we knew someone was in the attic. Catherine hated the way it felt up there. Didn't bother me. I was just neutral about it.
Okay.
I was respectful when I went in there. Kind of in a weird way, but
I totally get that.
it didn't bother me.
Yep.
But then Catherine was seeing, orbs of light over her bed that would shoot into her closet.
Oh,
Jeez.
She one night had this black dog wolf thing. It was in her face, and it was almost like it was going to bite her.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so real that it woke her up. And when she rolled over, she saw Guinness sitting next to her bed.
He was protecting her.
Like he was there to comfort her or protect her. Me, I don't see anything. I'm just, losing my mind.
It's really interesting you said that, though, Traci, because in a lot of cultures, especially in Europe, there is a black dog that is known, it's an omen typically. So with some of the things that were shown in the show, I wonder if this smiley face guy came through in order to scare Catherine in that manner as this black dog. This is just my curiosity wondering, and Guinness is still around you guys because Guinness feels that I'm a firm believer that our dogs watch over us and they send us what we need to heal at some point in time, or they come back to us. And I just, he hasn't left you because you guys need him yet.
Well, it'd be nice if he'd show up next to my bed, but
Ask him to.
he's like, showing up next to her, but she has always seen stuff.
Yeah.
And I have always felt stuff.
Yep.
Another interesting thing here that we didn't talk about was there's so much residual energy.
Yeah.
In this area that we would hear mimics of each other when I knew Catherine was in a class. I would be in my bedroom and I would hear her say, just like she was standing 4 inches from my ear, "I love you."
I hate that. I hate mimics.
And I don't know how many times we would say to each other, "What did you just say?" And we're like, "Nothing." That all the time. And so she explained it's, the residual energy. They spent like 3 or 4 minutes talking about slaves.
Yeah.
Runaway slaves.
Yeah.
And they tied it to the slave patrol that was on the side of the house. Yeah. What they didn't mention, and it surprised me, was that Amy said there were 2 slaves stuck in the tree in the backyard. Because I would walk out there 100 times, it'd be fine. I would walk out there 101 times, and that last time, the fear just enveloped you.
Wow.
And you immediately felt like, I need to hide. I need to get in. I need to get away.
Right. Oh my God.
And so we would come inside. And what it is there's 2 stuck in the tree, but in this area there's multiple, because this used to be marshland.
Right.
There's multiple slaves. And so when the fear comes or we feel it, it's because there's more than one. And so that's why she said, "Holy man." What she left out was that I needed a black male medium and a holy man to spend the day pulling the 2 out of the tree and calling it all the other ones that may be around who want to go.
Oh, that's so awful. Those poor people.
Yeah. So, try going, looking in the yellow pages for a black male medium.
We were just
joked about that earlier.
Yeah, like how do you find a demonologist? You don't just yellow page demonologist.
Yeah.
And if there is one, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to say that we were talking about this earlier too, that just because you find someone doesn't mean that they're legit and that they're not going to charge you a fortune. I mean, most people who do this don't charge anything because they just want to help people. But we have talked to other clients before who have gone and found a medium or a shaman or whatever, and they're not who they say they are. They charge a fortune and they make things worse. Yeah. They piss off the spirits and make things worse. So how do you even know how to find somebody or how to find somebody legit? I mean, that's really hard.
Right. We actually, when I started my search for, we needed a black male medium, we needed a holy man, we needed a demonologist, and we needed a medium or a psychic who was also a Reiki master.
Mm-hmm. So you got bingo, is what you're saying. You got a bingo.
Right. Who would need to come and clear out the group of men in the, this slave patrol. Mm-hmm. And it would take a minimum of 3 times, but it could be more. Wow. So, that was our list of stuff to do. Meanwhile, David, it wasn't enough that he just left the house. If he left the house, we had to have all these things in place and ready to go. If he just left the house and was gone for, Amy said, a month, 6 weeks. That's so what would happen is this psychopath would he would just find somebody else. Mm-hmm. And who can do that?
Right.
To somebody.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like David's going to be like, all right, good luck, everybody, and then leave.
Yeah.
Right. And, people on all these pages, they're like, if they said I had to go, I'd pack my car that night and leave. Really?
It's not that simple.
Would you really?
There are some that seem a little bit more simple. This one is not as simple, especially since there was a lot of information that was left out that's key. Mm-hmm. We were talking earlier, you tied the bow on who those men in the backyard were, because that wasn't clear.
No.
And especially,
they didn't do it in the show.
Which is why you saying that you needed a black male medium, to come in for that makes a lot of sense, but also makes sense why they cut that out, because they didn't tie the pretty bow around what was going on. And it just, to me, it felt weird that we didn't know who those people were, but yet Amy was telling you this is what you have to do to get rid of them.
And she talked a lot about them during her walk, too.
It was an odd editing of the show. I feel
like this season they've had a new editor or something, or a head editor. Because it feels like a lot more is being left out in the reveals than has in the previous years or previous seasons.
I agree. This season's different.
Where it just feels like Traci, I'm so glad you came on, because there were so many questions that I'm already oh, thank God she answered that already, because there wasn't a connection piece. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that puts you in that position where people are trolls on the internet, and they're ignorant, and they're mean, and they're rude, and they're just choosing to be well, she's just dumb. I don't understand.
I would have done it. And it's really? What if you don't have another option? We're not all billionaires who can just go and leave and live
into a
else.
Titan submersible.
Right.
Right. We can't afford the next county over, their weekly rate at the hotel.
Right.
For months, and the help.
Yes.
Mind you, that the list we were given, because I did start to search for, after kind of the shock went away, which took several days. Mm-hmm. It just recovering from the filming, and because every time they came for 3 days straight, and each time we had to move the dog and all of his food in his crate, and he's a German Shepherd.
Mm-hmm. No.
So he's a big dog.
Mm-hmm. Probably also has a little separation anxiety.
Yes. Yep. The 2 cats, their kitty litter, their food. Mm-hmm. Catherine, it was the first week of exams.
Of course.
For that semester. And the nursing program she's in is extremely hard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was the worst time.
Yeah.
So it took a minute to recover. And then we started to look for someone. And I went to every metaphysical shop. My neighbor and I did. She drove me.
Oh, that's so nice.
They knew nobody. They had no recommendations. Yes.
Wow.
Then I came home and I started looking online, and I called this one woman who was in or around where I live. And she somewhat seemed, not even somewhat, she kind of seemed like she knew what she was talking about without me giving her any detail. And like she could handle it. To the point where I'm like, okay, the three of us, let's go meet with her. I've made an appointment. Went, paid money, we sat down, we met with her, and she was completely full of crap.
No.
And Catherine and I looked at each other and we were just like, I don't even want to embarrass her and call her out on the fact that, you know, you just gave me some line of BS and then you just gave me some several $100, you know, amount to come to my home after I've just paid you over $100 and something to sit down with me, and you could fix it. And I just thought, I can't do this again. I can't afford to do this again.
I'm so sorry, Traci.
That's really awful. People are the worst.
So, yes.
They just prey on anybody.
They're going to have to answer. I mean, you're going to have to
eventually.
Eventually, you'll have to, you know,
this
whether it's karma,
stupid,
whatever it is.
I mean, could you like search on Facebook or, you know, somewhere like?
Oh, I did. Oh, okay. You would think. Yeah, and what I think it is people are fine working with like good energy, but when it comes to something that might be a little bit negative, they're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's understandable, but still.
So they did leave out the two slaves. What she was saying is the group of men around the campfire knew that they were dead. But the one main guy she could see did not realize that he was dead. So he's trying to motivate this group of people. And she's hearing, no, not again. I can't do this again. And it's because these people know they're dead and they just want to go. But this guy is somehow holding him. And she said he's creating some kind of energy she's never seen before.
Oh, wow.
And she can't explain it. And it's on a, like, daily basis.
How fun. How unique.
Well, that's interesting, too. Like, how did she mention anything about how these guys might have died then? Because if they're all around that campfire, you would assume that it was sometime around that time frame, knowing that these were marshes and that sort of thing. Like, did a boat capsize? Did, you know?
She didn't mention how they died. Okay.
These men are slaves, right?
No,
they're not the KKK.
No, these are men who had no choice because the legislature here said at some point in time you're going to have to go on one of these patrols and look for runaway slaves.
There were two runaway slaves that were basically treed. They were in the tree. Right. There was no way for them to get out. And then there was these 12 to 13, which, by the way, 12, 13 can be, specifically 13 is an omen in a lot of cultures. You know, you think about, a lot of that aspect. I happen to love the number 13. But I
was born on the 13th.
I love it. So. I love Friday the 13th. Like, it's one of my favorites.
I do too. It's never been unlucky for me. But it's been lucky.
It is something that is noted throughout history. So, like, there's a lot of really interesting pieces where I wonder how, like, some of your history or your culture or maybe your past lives are coming through with some of that, of like the symbolism of those other pieces. Because obviously you mentioned, you know, like you have a strong faith and earlier, and maybe there's just pieces of those that are coming through from that are just resounding. Because haven't heard a ton of that from Amy in the past about talking about like the black dog or the number 13 or any of those things that are perceived as, quote, bad omens, unless it pertains to maybe a Native American culture.
That's a really great point, because now that you think about it, I don't recall her ever kind of mentioning what you just said. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say this, and I say this with complete respect and understanding. I think Amy knew when she got here this was going to be her last walk. Mm-hmm. I don't think everybody else knew.
Okay.
Got it.
Hi, friends. Amy here. This is where we're going to cut off this episode for today. And this was a really long interview, and so I'm splitting it up into 2. Now, if you really want to hear the whole interview, you can go over to our Patreon and become a patron, and you can hear it there, because I'm releasing the interview in its entirety over there on Patreon. So you can always come join us over there. Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of the Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media, and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.
Hi friends, Amy here. I just wanted to share with you some promo reels from some really amazing podcasts in our Boo Pod network. Please give them a listen.
Greetings, friends. Do you have a taste for the unknown? Are your days plagued with thoughts of the strange and morbid? Has your thirst to know about the world's most sadistic killers ever been quenched? If not, then I'm here to help. Join me on the Nightcap Nebula podcast, where I, your humble storyteller, take you on a glorious ride into the mysterious universal abyss. Learn why your neighbor might be harboring a really horrible secret, or if that conspiracy theory you thought was false turned out to be real. Whatever your dark desire, you'll find it here. Follow me on Instagram at the Nightcap Nebula Pod for updates to the show, and listen anywhere you get your podcasts. Until then, be safe and stay curious. Now, back to your program.